You are listening or watching part 2 with Michael Felsen, a lawyer by profession and a wonderful human being. We had an open and bold conversation on topics of interfaith, parenting, his work in his field, and what he stands for today. Hope you have watched or listened to part 1 with Michael Felsen. If you haven't, you can watch episode 120 part 1 with Michael Felsen on my YouTube channel or listen to it on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Podcast, or any other platform that you prefer where you can find this podcast. You can visit my website lightupwithShua.com and find out more about my work and other episodes. You are welcome to leave a comment, a testimonial, or a question on my website, and I will get back to you. Thank you for listening or watching this episode. If you like this episode, then please press the like button, share with your family and friends, and stay tuned for part 3 next week. Very nice. Thank you. So I guess you have started the interfaith topic already before I went into it. So
among the things I know you're interested in is sort of like, what's my faith practice or whatever. I don't know whether you're going to get to that or not, but just I'll encapsulate it here, because this I thought was, I love this story. Was that, I was over at the mosque for a meeting, a very serious meeting. Things were there was a serious problem with certain media people and some things that had been said publicly, so it was a meeting, and I was invited to join the meeting, and and I made some comments during the meeting, on behalf of what I viewed as the righteous position of the mosque and the Islamic community. And, afterwards, my friend who's in leadership there, after the meeting, he said, Michael, thank you so much for being there. And I want to say a prayer, for you to, in thanks or whatever, something like that. And he said, but wait a minute, do you believe in God? Because we probably had this conversation previously, and I said, well, to my friend, I said, when someone asks me that, I have to say, it depends on what you mean by God, And I said, what I can tell you is that I am in awe of the mysteries of the universe. And he said, oh, okay, you believe in God. I'm going to say a prayer for you.
yes.
And I've had that conversation with a number of my Muslim friends. Because I know, it's a big difference, I mean, the concept of God that is very important to many of my friends, and that I completely respect, their belief systems, is not one that I would say we're not in sync on that, I mean, the traditional concept of God or a supreme being, that all-knowing and heaven and hell or whatever, or afterlife. One of your questions was, I do not believe in an afterlife. I have no reason to. If there is one, that would be fine.
Okay, so now you're ahead of me. You're too ahead of me.
I'm
so
sorry.
we need to go into. You're a lawyer. You should know that, right? We have to go in sequence.
I apologize. You
Yes.
can edit it so that it gets into the right order.
That will be too much work, so I don't want to do that. All right. No, but yes, I will ask the last leg of questions, and that's when you will answer me. Okay, good. I would like to ask you, actually, Michael. So what is your definition of higher being? Is there any definition you have? Do you believe somebody beyond yourself that exists, has power? Where is this universe coming from?
To be honest, all I have are questions rather than answers.
Okay.
And I think.
Have you asked anybody about these questions or researched on yourself, by yourself, or you just have the questions and you don't want them to be answered, or what's the deal?
Oh no. I mean,
Yeah.
I've certainly been exposed to people, what one might call people of faith, people who believe in a higher power,
Orthodox Jews believe in God, right? Elohim, Eloheh.
Oh, not just Orthodox Jews. Most Jews do. Well,
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. There are a lot of Jews
Who? Yes.
who are secular Jews. Okay. And but there are many, who are quite religious and very much focused on God, I guess what I would say is that this is interesting, Shua, because my parents, okay, they were both refugees from Nazi Germany. Okay. They both, lost family there, but, much of their family got out just in time. But they were victims of the Nazis. And on both sides, they were observant Jews, meaning they prayed and they went to their parents, went to synagogue and prayed to God. Because God, of course, is at the center of Jewish prayer. It's, always. But neither of my parents were observant at all. They rejected it. Okay. And they were my mother and father were both rejected by my grandmother for rejecting the faith. But I grew up in that environment, right? And eventually I actually went to Jewish school. There are different denominations of Jewish, there's Orthodox, conservative, Reform. This was a Reconstructionist now, but I went to Reform Sunday school. I have a Jewish education, of the Reform type, right?
Do you know Hebrew also? Did they teach you Hebrew?
Well, I went to Hebrew school, but I really didn't learn enough. Yeah. And but when I went off to college, and as I said, it was during the Vietnam War. We were interested in social justice and protest against the Vietnam War, and my eyes opened to different kinds of things, and I realized I'm not interested in following a religious path. And again, I say this, I'm a true believer that much, most of what we as humans, and in our adult, incarnation as humans follow is the result of what we did when we were children and what we were comfortable with and what meant, what our parents cared about. Right.
Yes.
In other words, someone who has atheists for parents, it's not likely, that they're going to find religion. They might, they might feel that fulfills them, but and this is one of the things that I've always, thought was really, important is that, well, I found that, for example, my own grandmother, who was pretty observant, felt very strongly about following the rules, but that she didn't really get solace from her faith. She felt she had to follow the rules, but there wasn't really greater warmth and meaning that came from it, and that's what I experienced also. In observing that in her, but the other thing that has always bothered me about religions is the extent to which they claim to be the sole truth. If any given religion says we are the only truth and all the other religions are false religions or are wrong, my answer to that is, well, what gives you the right to say that?
Right.
You say that because God told you that?
Yeah.
Well, God told the other religions the same thing. So God must be confused. Right?
Yeah. So I would come to this question. So which religion do you think is saying that I am right and everybody else is wrong? And now I'm talking not by human beings, because we all say whatever we want to, but with reference and really knowing which religion says this, what you just said.
Well, if we look at the history of different religions and what they've done and the kinds of religious wars that have happened, I think we have to recognize that, certainly, Jews certainly suffered greatly at the hands of the Catholic Church, right? The Spanish Inquisition, You know, I mean, this was not like,
But,
oh, you're Jewish, so you can be Jewish and it's perfectly fine, and you know, your religion is just as valid as the Catholic religion. That certainly was not true. You know, there's greater, much greater acceptance, for example, of the Jewish religion in Catholicism now. But that's a recent development.
Yes.
And look at all the carnage that religious wars have wrought.
Yes.
Okay. Over what? Because one said, you know, I'm right, and the other one said, no, you're not right. I'm right.
But that's where I think I differentiate. You're absolutely right in how you are saying, and the understanding that I am understanding that you are talking from is right. But there is so much. So this discussion needs another hour because I was born into a Muslim household. I was born into a culture, but my parents are Muslims. My father has passed away, so he was a practicing Muslim, but not a fanatic or this extreme or that extreme.
Sure.
And none of my parents ever told us to forcefully. They never made us do anything. All right. But as we have grown, I have chosen and observed and explored and researched my own faith. And as you have some idea that I am into interfaith, and I've been learning about other faiths, and the Quran, which is my scripture, or Muslim scripture, not my scripture, and not only Muslim, it is for anybody. And I would welcome and invite you to read as a book, not as a thing that, oh, you should read it because it will give you some this or that and the other. No. Just have you ever read a Quran?
Not the whole Quran, no.
Not the whole. No, I'm not saying the whole. But what have you read out of, like, some chapters?
Yeah, different passages. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I would invite you. So did you read the first two chapters?
Probably
passages. Not. So passages, depending on the interest of, like, okay, or kill all this or that, and those controversial verses.
Shua, you know, I feel like you're trying to defend. I don't.
No. I don't want to defend. No. I like what you said, because I wanted to say that is the right person to talk about what I want to talk about. But then we can talk about it later. What I have understood is I can't even tell my own child forcefully to do this or believe in this and do that. So I think that will answer any other question. And I don't even have to go beyond my own children or family or my faith, that I am not supposed to force anything on anybody. So now comes the understanding and the interpretation. That's where I was coming, that we need to give space within our faiths, within our understandings, right?
Shua, I guess I could summarize my own views about religion is, number one, I am absolutely not judgmental about anyone who practices their faith and who gets fulfillment from that and a feeling of connection to whatever higher power they believe in, and so on and so on and so forth. I love the fact that the world has so many different religions, because I love the fact that there are different cultures. That's what makes life interesting. You know, that if we were all the same, it would be incredibly
boring,
very boring place to be, right?
Yes.
My only main point that I will continue to make is that, to the extent religion has been used, and sadly it has too often, to say that other people are wrong and to the point of going to war with them or whatever it may be, that's a problem. You know, that's a very that there's a long history of that, and part of what's problematic to me about and I hinted at this before, not hinted, I said it before, is that to the extent any given religion or even any given person says, well, God told me that I should do this, and that's why I'm doing it. And
Wow.
listen, I remember when our president, George W. Bush, said, God told me that we should go invade Iraq. He thought he was hearing messages from God. This is very, very problematic,
Yes, you're absolutely.
and to the extent that people's faith gives them solace, gives them comfort, gives them a sense of spirituality and being connected to the universe, connected to other human beings, and loving of other human beings.
I think that's what the message of every faith is. And I think in any faith says or does what you just said previously, which is violent.
Yeah, I know. Well, Shua, you and I can agree about that. Yeah. Unfortunately, there are lots and lots of people, okay, including in the United States, where, as you probably know, there's a whole movement to make the United States a Christian country.
Yes.
Okay, because that's the only way that the United States should be. I mean, to me, these things are very, very problematic. They continue. We're in the 21st century. It seems like we should know better than this. We should have learned from history a little bit more. And again, many of my friends feel, and I would say I'm not an unspiritual person. It's just that I don't attach the term God to what I feel spiritual about. I feel spiritual about being alive and being part of this, inscrutable experience that we call life, and as I said, I'm in awe of the mysteries of the universe. Some people may call that God, that I'm referring to, but I don't feel the need to refer to, a supernatural being of some kind. I just, and again, it's a more, and when I talk about, humanism, it's not elevating humans to that humans are God, but it's simply, we're all humans, regardless of what faith we practice, and we should all treat one another the same. And which brings me to my religious tenet is the golden rule. I may not practice it all the time. I aspire to practice it all the time. To me, that's the key learning, and it cuts across all religions. Which what it says to me is, it's not really a religious concept. It's a human concept. It's not grounded in a specific religious faith. Because both humanists and all the different religions have the same basically the same golden rule. And you know what that says. And if we could all be that way with one another, we would be in a very good place.
Well, say it for people who might not know golden rule. What is golden rule?
Well, there are many different ways of saying, well, not many, there are a few different ways, but basically do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Think about the other, and be righteous, be fair. If you don't want to be tortured, don't torture other people. Yes. If you don't want to go hungry, don't cause other people to go hungry. If you don't want to be a slave, don't enslave other people. And to me, if we all had that as this the central tenet of our religion, it would be a pretty wonderful world we would live in.
That's true. That's true. Well, maybe we are in that direction. It's a little slower and taking longer, but might not be in our lifetime. Maybe, I don't know. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate your sharing all what you thought. Thank you so much. I like that. It's that's how it should be. The respect should be there, and that is the beginning. That is like we can differ, but that is what I wish we could learn to do. I have learned over the years and appreciated, and I like that, and I try to practice that we may differ. That's fine. And we had discussions in our organizations that we might not go along with that, but that's where I think that is what is needed in our circles, in our nations, in Middle East. It is very much needed there, the way the treatment is so inhumane with one another. So that is where it begins, and I hope and pray that we can one day, all human beings can come to that, or at least have more percentage of that. So anyways,
I say amen.
Oh. Otherwise, you wouldn't say that? Do you use amen? I'm just asking. I'm curious now. Now I'm curious
Well,
about
I
Michael.
use it all the time. I mean,
Okay.
to me, what
It means just
I agree.
okay. Exactly.
I affirm what you're saying.
Yep.
That's
Thank
what it
you.
means to me. You know, it's not based on
On a religious
I'm not saying
amen.
it to God. I'm saying it to my fellow humans.
Okay. Okay. No problem. No problem. It's all in the definition, Michael. It is interesting. It's nice. I like. So I will have some other time some more discussion. It's nice to learn from people like you. It's good to have discussions where you can have a civilized discussion. That's what I am looking for. You can disagree, we can differ, we don't have to come to a conclusion, but to have a discussion and learn about the understanding of, okay, what is it that one person believes or not believes or whatever. That's what it is. And so not to cut into serious, argument or anything. No way.
No argument.
No argument. And you are an expert, so you will know how to avoid it. So that's good.
See, we've come to common ground, but you're pretty easy, Shua.
Yes, I am.
For that purpose, because you and I share that
Yes.
goal.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Michael. So let's. What is the time? I guess we need to start wrapping up. What kind of a parent are you? Are you putting all these values, or not putting, or have they learned? You have children, I know.
I do.
Yes, and you mentioned them, and you have, mashallah, bless them, two successful boys. Right?
Three boys.
Three boys. Sorry, three boys. Three boys and
three
one.
boys and now three grandchildren.
Oh wow, wow!
Yeah.
So you must be enjoying that.
Well, COVID has put a damper on it because they don't live nearby. But
okay. Yes,
but yes, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yes. So hopefully soon. You.
Well, yeah. Last weekend we saw one of the grandchildren. We went to New Jersey and saw the youngest one, who's just 1 year old, and that was wonderful. And next week we go out to California to see the other two grandchildren. So
nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, so we're really looking forward to that.
That's wonderful. Yeah. That's good. So are your children secular, or are they Jewish, or what do they do? Have they learned that from you? They are following your footsteps?
Well, and again, the organization that I mentioned, Boston Workers Circle, is culturally Jewish and secular, and there's a long history in the United States of secular, yes. Jewish. I mean, that organization itself has been around for about 110 years, or maybe 120 at this point. I lose track. Immigrants came over and moved to the Lower East Side of New York and founded the organization. It became the largest Jewish organization in the country in the 1930s or so. So all of my children were actually bar mitzvahed in the Workers Circle. But again, all of our rituals and practices and observances we do from we recognize the religious origins of many of them, but we kind of have brought them to a non-religious perspective that we hold now. So we resonate with it. I mean, I don't know if you heard the Shema. The Shema is like is the central prayer of religious Jews. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
I think I kind of
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. It's a very religious, very God-oriented thing. We actually sing that at our observances, and we have very big, for example, Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah observances, Yom Kippur. So we do a lot of these things, but we translate it into the more human to human perspective and community perspective, rather than everything relating back up to God. It's more relating to our fellow humans on this planet, all humans, not just Jews, whatever. I mean, everybody, the community, and seeking social justice for all, and equality, the kinds of social progressive values that we believe in. So my children were raised in that environment, and they all continue basically in that environment. My oldest son married a more observant, Jewish woman, but he's, I'm not sure that she believes in God either. She's observant, but she probably would say she maybe doesn't. And her parents are also observant. They might maybe don't believe in God either. Believe in God, again, a supernatural being, force, whatever you want to call it, But a lot of it is practicing the ritual because it resonates culturally and it resonates familially, right? It's what your families passed on and so forth. And that to me is part of it. Like I used to go to services with my grandparents and listen to the Shema. So it's meaningful to me, from a personal history standpoint.
Yeah.
If I've reinterpreted, and again, many of us have, what the message is, which is it's not necessarily a communication with God. God maybe is, if you're going to call God is our fellow human beings, and the rest, everything on the planet, nature and animals,
right.
But particularly humans, I mean, taking care of one another,
Right.
all of us,
Right. That's good. That's very good. Wow. So your children are is any one of them a lawyer?
No.
Did they choose this field? No.
None of them chose that field, and that's fine with me. My oldest son is a novelist. He wrote a very interesting novel.
Yes.
In fact, I'll show it.
Oh.
Happen to have some extra copies here.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah. You mentioned in your so Green.
Yeah.
What is it about?
It's about the 1 year in the life of a young man. It's basically, let's just say, it's pretty semi-autobiographical.
Okay.
It's a 7th grade year or maybe 6th grade, 7th grade, of a young man who's going to Boston public schools, and he's one of the few white kids.
Oh, yes, I remember now. You mentioned it. Yes.
School,
yes.
And how he begins to awaken to his white privilege. That he is treated differently than the other kids, and in his life, and it's kind of an interesting book, and something that he's been very interested in is that area.
So, would you give any suggestion to parents from your experience that you felt that you were successful with your children in communicating, or you feel that they have achieved something, and where is the what's the good, what were your habits or practices that made them into that person that you feel good about it, and some challenges that you felt and can suggest other parents or younger parents who are upcoming that they can avoid with their children?